BLM. Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter. Which one? Well, because I know I deal with a bunch of retarded people. That's black, and that's blue. So let's go. Both organizations are totally full of shit. You guys, go look into your leaders. They're rapists, murderers, terrorists. They're taking money that's supposed to go to help the black community and funneling it over to the Democratic political party. A bunch of rich white men. You guys, see that? You can quit your job, take off your uniform, and go work somewhere else, and no one will ever know that you're a cop. So it's not blue lives, it's fucking domestic terrorists themselves. Bodhi is. Am I clear and unambiguous? Let's dive in. Black Lives Matter. You're right. Cops are a bunch of bastards. Now let's dig into this exactly why. Because none of your fucking leaders are telling you shit about what's really going on. So I hope to shed some light into this. Those leaders are pushing for violence because they don't want that orange guy to go and destroy their criminal organization. So let's look at, first of all, what's gone on. Here on YouTube, you can see my video series, The History of America, parts 1 through 4. I discussed this global trust through the papal bulls all the way back to 1206 or something like that, but Magna Carta era, and how they've been building this global trust to free us. And if you don't know how to be freed, then you get enslaved and entrapped by it. It's a brilliant trap. And that's what I'm here for, is to help you get out of it so we can all get on to living the American dream, real freedom. So you have to look, where is that trust located? Look up Title 28, Section 3002, subsection 15A. And you can go to Australia, Canada, anywhere in the globe where they have United Nations, and see that they have a definition for your country name. In America, it's 28, 3002, 15A, B, and C. Go look it up. It defines the United States as a federal corporation. I've said this before many times. If you guys don't care about your own freedom, then don't verify what I say. So what happens when a cop decides he wants to put on that blue and become a cop? He has to have an oath of office. He has to affirm and attest or swear under penalty of perjury that he's going to faithfully execute the duties of his office. You can go read in Nevada Revised Statute 282.020 the exact oath that Las Vegas Metro Police take. What's wrong with that is that it's totally void. None of you are operating lawfully in commerce. You're all acting as this de facto government. It's not de jure in accordance with the Constitution, which is why judges will blatantly tell citizens in court, you can't use the Constitution to defend yourself. Look at the Bundy case. They weren't allowed to use it, and all of a sudden, Ryan Bundy and Ammon Bundy show up in court and can. Well, that's outside of this scope, but that's because they became American nationals. Paddleford Faye versus the, Paddleford, Padelford, Faye and Company versus the mayor and aldermen of the city of Savannah. 14 Georgia 438 from 520. You cannot use the U.S. Constitution to defend yourself because you're not a party to it. So now all of a sudden, all these little minorities, poor people, not just black people, poor people going into court go, I have a constitutional right to... No, you don't. Government has constitutional restrictions. Citizens do not have constitutional rights. Superior Court decision, a Georgia State Supreme Court decision. Then you can read Article 4, Section 1 of the Constitution for the United States of America, and you can verify that full faith and good credit shall be given in each state to every other state's judicials, acts, records, and proceedings. That means if it was decided in Georgia, then other people have to allow it there. So now, why are people, not just black people, all people, getting arrested by these bad guys for selling or using marijuana when Nevada, California, etc. have legalized marijuana? You go to Texas and they can still arrest you for felony drug charges because they're in violation. Another shooting in the neighborhood. Well, it's August 29th, so it's not 4th of July. More Black Lives Matters peacefully protesting? I'm joking. Not even concerned because I know my neighborhood. They've been blowing off fireworks since in June. Anyway, so what happens when you guys take that oath according to NRS 282.020? It becomes void. The reason it's void is because of federal law, and federal law supersedes state law. Federal law is superior and must be obeyed. It neutralizes and negates state law when it's in alignment. Now, if you go and have two different views and they're opposing each other, then states' rights step in, and the 10th Amendment states can overturn the rights of the government. And they can take the 10th Amendment and make it superior to the federal government's edicts, verdicts, decisions, laws. The Constitution really is a beautiful thing when you get to know it. When you're out burning up streets, you don't get to study, so you stay ignorant, but you feel good. Here's an interesting case, Prince versus the United States. This was a sheriff down in Texas. See, you can hear that's fireworks. It was a sheriff down in Texas which didn't want to enforce the Brady Bill. So he said that in his county, that Brady Bill was void. That's because he knew of Norton versus Shelby County. And in that case, it was decided that an unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no weight. It holds no office. It is as inoperative as though it has never been written. And that was cited at 118 U.S. 425 from 1886. So Prince knew that the president's Brady Bill, President Bill Clinton, was void, and he refused to enforce it in his county. Those are some skyrockets. So he took it to the Supreme Court, and in Prince versus U.S., it was decided, quoting Chief Justice Scalia, who was assassinated, who was then quoting James Madison, "The great innovation of this design was that our citizens would have two political capacities, one state and one federal. State and federal, each protected from incursion by the other, a legal system unprecedented in form and design, establishing two forms of government, each with its own obligations to the people, the local or municipal authorities, for distinct and independent portions of the supremacy. This separation of the two spheres is one of the Constitution's structural protections of liberty. See, one of the things I have to do as counsel is I have to decide which venue my client is best served in. If it's a federal gun charge, then I want him to go to the state. If it's a straight state drug charge, I want him to go to the federal. Because each one of them has two different spheres, and they each protect the citizen from the other. Read the Ninth Amendment. It states, the enumeration in this Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. And so, with that in mind, it's your right to do drugs, it's your right to be a prostitute, it's your right to sell drugs, it's your right to go and, do a lot of things that these little guys think are illegal. Well, there's a difference between statutes and codes. And this is why I highly criticize Black Lives Matter. Because your leaders are a bunch of fucking corrupt motherfucking pedophiles, just like your leaders are, just like all of our leaders are. But these guys don't want to tell you the truth. None of them tell you guys, study the law. Not Jackson, not Shapiro, not fucking Farrakhan, not Malcolm, not Martin Luther King, not Gandhi. Nobody's ever said it, nobody's ever done it, and I'm here telling you now, study the fucking law. Because the truth will set you free. When you understand, cops come up to me and they go blah, 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 blah. Take me to jail. Peacefully, safely. I don't need to worry about getting falsely prosecuted. I've been up on all kinds of charges. I have 28 arrests under my belt and 3 convictions in the last 29 years. Most of those have been civil disobedience. A couple of them have been violent, and I took plea bargains and stuff like that, took deals. But 3 real convictions, and the other 25 cases I've beaten. So maybe I know a thing or two. So let's talk about these laws that these guys are enforcing. These guys say they're a bunch of terrorists. I agree. Answer this, fucking treasonous bastard piece of shit cops. Blue Lives Matter. Rodriguez versus Ray Donovan in the U.S. Department of Labor, cited at 769 F. 2nd, 1344, 1348 from 1985. Yeah, your whole world is crumbling because this is fact in law. All codes, rules, regulations are for government authorities only, not human creators in accord with God's law. All codes, rules, and regulations are unconstitutional and lacking due process of law, in that they are void for ambiguity in their failure to specify the statute's applicability to the natural person, otherwise depriving the same of fair notice, as their construction by definition of terms aptly identifies the applicability of such statutes to the artificial or fictional corporate entities or persons, creatures of statute, or those by contract employed as agents or representatives, departmental subdivisions, offices, officers, and property of the government, but not the natural person. Why the fuck are you clowns even enforcing your laws against us, the people? Unless there's an injured party. Unless there's a third party to come in and say, yes, running out of lighters. He hurt me.
I did not.
Okay, take him to jail, let the judge decide. He raped me. He robbed me. He burned my store. Injured party. Criminal. Take him to jail, let the judge decide. See, without an injured party, there's no victim and no crime. Therefore, BLM is correct in what they're saying. Like with Jacob Blake, they all say, well, he had a warrant for his arrest, and he was a felon, and he had raped a woman, and okay, why can't you go and bring up that arrest and show me he was convicted? So what the fuck are these cops even doing there talking to the man? See, this is a paramount case from 1795, which is why I say your leaders are not teaching you the law. They want you ignorant and violent. Penhallow versus Doan's Administrators, cited at 3 U.S. 54 from 1795. Inasmuch as every government is an artificial person, an abstraction, and a creature of the mind only, a government can interface only with other artificial persons. The imaginary, having neither actuality nor substance, is foreclosed from creating and attaining parity with the tangible. The legal manifestation of this is that no government, as well as any law, agency, aspect, court, etc., can concern itself with anything other than corporate artificial persons and contracts between them. So, what contract were you guys trying to enforce with Jacob Blake? Yeah. Where's the warrant? Yeah. That was murder. You had no jurisdiction. That was murder. Fuck you. Go burn the city down. No. Go kill the fucking cops who did that. They're murderers, and if they won't give us justice, we're gonna fucking take it. Go after these bastards who are murdering citizens without jurisdiction. Fuck burning down cities. Fuck that. Fuck stomping on citizens. Go after the criminals. If the DA won't prosecute that fucking cop who shot him 7 fucking times in the back, then we demand justice. It's our right. It's guaranteed in the Constitution. When the government exceeds their authority, we have the right to go and step on them and put them out of commission, and we can overthrow them. Read the Constitution. Read the Declaration of Independence. It's all in there, baby. And that's what's getting people scared, because they're realizing we're starting to learn the law. Here's some things for all you nice little cops that think that you have government immunity. Any claim of immunity a government agent could possibly make is a fraud, because if it was valid, it would prevent removal from office for crimes against the people, which removal is authorized and even mandated under Title 18, Section 241 and 242, as well as Title 42, Section 1983, 1985, 1986, and state and federal constitutions. So you guys don't have this bulletproof immunity when you go killing citizens. You guys are even, like it says in Penhallow, abstractions, creatures of the mind, artificial. Read the oath of office that you did. Oh, it's cute, isn't it? Read Title 8, Section 1481, subsection 2. When you swear your oath of office, you relinquish your U.S. citizenship and become an agent of a foreign government. That's why you guys got no jurisdiction dealing with the people, the tangible. That's why you can only concern yourself with contracts between them, because you are a corporate fiction. You are only here to make sure there is domestic peace, tranquility. You're not here to decide if that motherfucker has a warrant for his arrest. Read what the warrant must be. Wow. First of all, there's a great deal of information in the public knowledge of Hale versus Hinkle. It describes the exact process of what a grand jury indictment is. And believe me, President Trump has been working on this to perfection with pedophiles. First of all, you must convene 23 to 27 of the people. They must select a grand jury foreman. Then they must be presented evidence sufficient to get a unanimous agreement that a warrant for his arrest is authorized. Then they must have the foreman of the grand jury swear out an affidavit in support of warrant, which verifies that they did have that many people, they were presented evidence, and they unanimously agreed there is probable cause to arrest. Did they have that on the warrant you were enforcing against Jacob Blake? No. That's why you guys are in violation. Fuck you. Then they bring that, the district attorney, as a witness, brings that to a neutral judge, not every judge, a neutral judge, and the neutral judge must, in front of the clerk of the court, second witness, because you have the DA and clerk, sign in wet ink, which means, what color pen are you using? Blue. Contract. Sign a wet ink bona fide warrant for the arrest. Then he gives that to the clerk. The clerk puts a seal on it which permeates the paper and breaks through it. That is purple. And the paper itself must have a watermark of the court. That's the original warrant. And according to a case, upon demand, that must be presented to the person. It's U.S. versus Mincy or U.S. versus Hotel, but I'm going to get into both of those and cite them very shortly. Now, let's talk about that, because according to Jacob Blake's case, this warrant was from weeks ago, so you should have it. Why didn't it appear from any video I've seen that you were presenting him with such? Because you guys were acting as de facto and not de jure. You were acting as domestic terrorists, as road pirates, not as peace officers. And your police department was not even authorized by the Constitution. Only sheriffs in that county. So you are totally out of your jurisdiction with Jacob. Totally. Let's get some cases clear. Now, dealing with warrants. County of Riverside versus McLaughlin. Sick bastard. But 500 U.S. 44 from 1991. A U.S. Supreme Court case which involved the question of whether suspects arrested without a warrant must be brought into court within a reasonable amount of time to determine if there is probable cause for holding the suspect in custody. The court found that the County of Riverside's practices in regards to warrantless arrests were unconstitutional and ruled that suspects who are arrested without a warrant must be given probable cause within 48 hours. That was supported by Gerstein versus Pugh, which was cited at 420 U.S. 103 from 1975. The court held that the Fourth Amendment requires a prompt judicial determination of probable cause as a prerequisite to an extended pretrial detention following a warrantless arrest. This case requires us to define what is prompt under Gerstein. In instances where it takes longer than 48 hours, the burden shifts to the government to demonstrate the exercise of a bona fide emergency or other extraordinary circumstance. COVID-19 is not such. Get them on FaceTime, get the judge, get the person, have them speak, talk to the judge. Fuck you. Wake him up. My freedom, our freedom, is more important than the judge's sleep. Now, this was also supported with warrants, and going a little bit deeper into them. Mincy versus Arizona, 437 U.S. 385 from 1978. A warrant is a written order signed by a court authorizing a law enforcement officer to conduct search, seizure, or arrest. Searches, seizures, and arrests performed without a valid warrant are deemed presumptively invalid, and any evidence seized without a warrant will be suppressed unless a court finds that the search was reasonable under the circumstances. You're not allowed to be judge, jury, and executioner. It says so. Without that warrant, everything you did is presumptively invalid. Black Lives Matter! Right again. Jacob Blake, justified. And then, U.S. versus Hotel, which is the one I referenced to also, because it goes into a little bit more. To comply, this is cited at 143 F. 3rd, 1223 from 1998. To comply with Fourth Amendment anticipatory search warrant must either on its face or on the face of the accompanying affidavit. That's where I was talking about the affidavit from the grand jury's foreman. Clearly, expressly, and narrowly specify the triggering event. Consent to search that is given after illegal entry is tainted and invalid under the Fourth Amendment. So anything he had, anything he was doing, everything was invalid if these cops didn't give Jacob Blake the warrant. They cry murder, I concur. Execution. An act of domestic terrorism, an act of insurrection, an act of belligerence. Now let's get into that little gold fringe flag that you guys like wearing on your sleeve, on your uniform. That puts you under military jurisdiction. So, what are we going to do with that? Well, let's get into that under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. What happened when the cops went up to him and engaged Blake without a valid warrant? Well, I've already shown you a couple cases that prove pen hollow, no jurisdiction, that they had to have it. Arrests are presumptively invalid. But because they wear that little gold fringe flag on their sleeve, that means they're under the jurisdiction of the United States. And because it's under the Constitution, Article 2, because they're in the executive branch, that means that they're part of the United States military, and that means that we have certain protections. Under Regulation 84-10 of the Military Code and sections of the Administrative Procedures Act, and the presence of that military gold fringe flag on display in their courtroom, on display on their sleeves, so it's both the same thing, inside and out, instantly creates a state of emergency, meaning that the moment a police officer stopped you in the exercise of your life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that officer became a belligerent. Look that term up. Leos. He is armed and you are not. He displays a military rank and you're a civilian. He has now delivered you into a military court of justice with the intent to pillage and plunder within the admiralty jurisdiction of that military court, which is also known as the law of prize and captured property, as defined under Title 10, Sections 7651 to 7681 of the Code of Military Justice, established in law March 25, 1962. I hope I've made my point. See, there's valid sides to both arguments, but there's no validity in infringing on people's rights.